Okay, so have you ever, like, been going round and round in the same argument with your spouse?
Yeah, definitely.
You're just stuck,
Yeah.
and you can't get unstuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're not alone. And I found this episode of this podcast. It's a faith-based podcast called The Sunshine Inside.
Okay.
And they're talking about marriage counseling,
Okay.
but, like, from a Christian perspective,
Mm.
which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, so what did they say?
Well, one of the things that really resonated with me is they were talking about, like, when you should consider marriage counseling
Okay.
and how it's not a failure.
Right.
It's actually like a sign of strength.
Like you're investing in your marriage.
Exactly. And you're saying, okay, we need help.
Yeah, we need some extra tools.
Yeah, like we need some help to navigate this.
Yeah, for sure.
And I was really surprised by a statistic they shared.
Oh, really? What was it?
It was that, like, a really high percentage of married couples actually go to counseling at some point.
Wow, I had no idea it was that common.
Yeah, me neither. But, like, that's good to know, right?
Yeah, it kind of takes away the stigma.
Totally. It's like,
Oh.
well, it's not just us.
Right, exactly.
It's actually like a pretty normal thing.
Mm-hmm. So if you need help, you should get it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, they talk a lot about communication.
Oh, yeah. Communication is so key in any relationship.
Yeah, it's like the foundation of your relationship.
Totally. If you don't have good communication, everything else crumbles.
Yeah, and they were talking about that proverb, like, a soft answer turns away wrath.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that one.
Yeah, and it's so true. Like, when you think back on your arguments,
Yeah.
like, how did you respond?
Mm-hmm. Were you gentle or?
Yeah, or were you just like,
Yeah, did you meet anger with anger?
totally, and like, how did that turn out?
Right. Probably not. Well,
Probably not so good.
yeah. So what else did they say?
Well, they were also talking about, like, how do you know
Yeah.
when, like, your disagreements are more serious?
Yeah. Like,
Huh.
when is it time to actually seek professional help?
Right, and they were saying it's not always about, like, how often you're arguing,
Oh, okay.
but it's about the patterns.
Like, what do you mean?
Like, are you blaming each other? Are you resentful? Like, is there a lack of connection?
Yeah, I see. That makes sense.
And if that's happening, then that might be a sign.
That you need to reach out for help
Yeah.
and get some guidance?
Yeah, and they had this proverb about that, too.
Really? Which one?
It was, salvation is found in the multitude of counselors.
That's a good one to think about.
Yeah, and it made me think, like, seeking guidance is, like, part of being wise.
Absolutely. You can't do it all on your own.
Right.
You need other people to help you.
Exactly, and that kind of leads into, like, another thing they were talking about, which is, like, unity.
Okay.
Like, being on the same page.
Right. Being a team.
Yeah, and they had this line from Amos. It's like, can two walk together unless they are agreed?
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah, and so, like, think about that in your marriage.
Yeah. Are you actually walking together?
Right. Are you moving in the same direction?
Or are you going in opposite directions?
Exactly. And if you're not on the same page, it's going to cause problems.
Right. There's going to be conflict.
Yeah. And I love that the podcast didn't just, like, identify the problem,
Right.
but they gave some, like, suggestions for how to actually rekindle that.
That sense of agreement and unity, that's
Yeah.
super helpful.
Yeah. And then they were talking about the sanctity of marriage,
Okay.
like how important it is to try to work things out.
Right before you even consider separation.
Exactly. And they had another proverb.
Wow. They really like their proverbs,
you-
right?
What was this one?
This one was, listen to counsel and receive instruction that you may be wise.
So again, it's about seeking wisdom.
Yeah. And like being humble enough to listen to other people.
That's so important.
And, because it is a Christian podcast, they do talk a lot about like seeking guidance from your pastor or church leaders.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
And also like going to a Christian counselor specifically.
Right. Finding someone who shares your faith. Yeah, because they're going to be coming from the same perspective.
Exactly.
But ultimately, they did say that the Holy Spirit is like the ultimate counselor.
That's true.
So it's not like one or the other.
Right. It's about combining professional help with prayer.
Exactly. Like you can do both.
So what were some of the other key takeaways for you?
Well, I think for me, it was just realizing that, like, acknowledging that you're having problems
Yeah.
is not a sign of weakness.
It's actually the first step
Yeah, it's the first step towards growth.
towards healing. Yeah.
Exactly. And also just like that communication is so important.
Absolutely.
And it's not just about talking.
It's about listening.
Yeah, like really listening and trying to understand your partner.
Yeah, like what are they really saying?
Exactly.
What are
because-
their needs?
And like, don't be afraid to seek wise counsel.
Yes. From professionals and from people in your faith community.
Yeah, it can make a huge difference.
So I guess the question for all of us listening is,
Yeah.
how do you know when you need professional counseling?
Versus just like talking to your pastor or friends.
Right. And when is the time to take that step?
Yeah, That's something to think about.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the sunshine inside.
Yeah, this was a great conversation.
And, this is just a starting point.
Right, keep learning, keep exploring.
And keep investing in your marriage.
Yes, because marriage is a beautiful thing.
It is, and it's worth fighting for.
Absolutely.